Okay, I'm just going to go through a little bit on episode 50 of RJP, the Memorandum of Wrongdoings and Constitutional Violations. I'm glad that they can look at and see what all these wrongdoings and constitutional violations are. And they must be smarter than the Supreme Court and the Appeals Court and the Texas Court of Common Appeals if they can see this and all those people that work in that area don't see it. But I'm going to play a little bit here where he talks about Dana. Darlie's, she was 16 at the time, uh, and they say that that Darlie and Danelle, their personalities were about the same. Which, if that's the case, that's not looking good for Darlie. But as far as Dana, they said that Dana was the more feisty one. Is what Kathy was saying, the one that's apt to have a temper, which is true. I mean, because you can read the two police reports about where Dana would beat on Danelle, beat on her mother. Yeah, I mean, you can read that. They're available. But anyways, let's hear this.
And wife, a very good person, and she's very similar to Darlie Lynn in a lot of ways, personality wise.
She's very,
Oh yeah,
Darlie and Danelle's personality were much more gentle, temperament.
yeah.
Dana was the fiery one, and
Well, we've seen Danelle's temperament on my panel. We saw that when she accused me of nobody's ever accused me of anything deviant with a child, but Danelle's father was accused of that, and it's well known throughout the people that know the case. And her temperament came through when she accused me of, well, you're probably molesting your kids too. They just haven't told on you yet. That's real gentle, isn't it? Yeah. So I had to call my kids in to listen to her say that, and she started to backtrack. She started to backtrack a little bit when my child confronted her, when my 15-year-old said she was disgusting and she needed to get a life.
and she still is. She's a fantastic lady too. But Dana had the more fiery and quick to temperament than of the three girls.
Yeah, Dana, I think out of and don't get me wrong, I mean that this terrible tragedy destroyed that whole family. Not against themselves, but just who they are because of how horrendous this is. But um, the one I really feel for the most is actually, believe it or not, is really Dana, because you have to remember something, folks. She's the one that brought the silly string and the poppers to the graveyard.
They want to make sure that we know that, well, Darlie didn't bring them. It wasn't even Darlie that bring, because they want to blame everybody else but Darlie, including Dana. Darlie didn't bring that. It was Dana that brought that.
And that helped get Darlie Lynn convicted. And Darlie Lynn didn't even bring that stuff. And then,
So it doesn't matter that she didn't bring it because it was her choice to use it. That's her that we see with her hand on that and spraying. You see Darren doing that. Wasn't his choice. So quit blaming that on Dana.
the evening prior to the murders, the window was left open. And, I don't know if she still smokes or not, but she smoked cigarettes back then. And she smoked and ashed out that window. And she left that window open. And obviously, that's where the intruder did come in and commit the crime. And so it's you, you have to feel really. I mean, imagine living with that. Let alone everything that occurred.
Yeah, she has a lot of
It's unimaginable.
and she shouldn't because none of
Oh
it is
yeah.
her. And I'm sure she goes, why did I want to go home that night and not stay an extra night?
Here she says she wanted to go. Why did I want to go home that night? Why did I not stay an extra night? But you can read in Darlie's original statement that she wanted Darren to take Dana home because she wasn't feeling well. Here, Kathy contradicts what was actually said because there's two different reasons, stories, as to why Dana, who had been staying there for about a week because she didn't get along with her mother, who had been staying there for a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, and there's two different stories. Darlie says she asked Darren to take Dana home because she wasn't feeling well, right? Nowhere else on June the 5th does Darlie ever talk about, well, I didn't feel well, I was feeling kind of sick that day, except for when she wanted Dana to go home. See, because Dana would be in the way of her plan. Dana says that she wanted to go home to see her boyfriend. His name was Kevin, I believe, at the time. So there's two different stories. But if you believe Darlie that she wanted to go home, wanted her to go home because she was feeling sick, she wasn't feeling well, we have to look at the events of that whole day and talk about where else Darlie said she wasn't feeling well in that day.
I mean, you can sit there and kick yourself to
Yeah.
death, but if she had been there, I have a feeling she probably would have been killed or injured as well.
Darlie wouldn't have killed her. Dana would have whooped her ass.
But there would have been, the only difference is that there would have been a witness, maybe. But
Yeah. Well,
or who
Dana
knows?
was. I mean, Dana was a young woman at the time as well. I mean, she was 16 years old when those boys were murdered. So I mean, she was a young teenage girl, and Annie's quite possibly correct. She could have been um, hurt or killed too. It's quite possible.
So
Okay.
I couldn't imagine having to go through what Dana's gone through. And Dana and
Oh,
I we have more of a similar temperament because my sisters are both real sweet and kind, and I'm the middle child and I'm the fiery one of three girls. So I don't know if it's a middle child thing or just personality, but Dana and I are a lot more alike than I am to Darlie or Danelle. I'm not nearly as sweet as they are.
yeah. I've never talked to Dana. I've attempted to. She doesn't want to do that, and it's not because of me. It's because she don't want to go through this. I really
She sure didn't want to go through it on the Lisa Gibbons show. When Lisa asked her what was Darlie's state of mind that night, Dana didn't answer. She looked down at the ground and she began to cry. She didn't answer. I think Dana's the more honest one of the group.
truly believe she can't take it, like on a psychological level, because it just upsets her so terribly. I know she loved those little boys. I know she loved Darlie Lynn. So it's
He doesn't go to see Darlie. And one reason I heard when I asked, well, why doesn't Dana go see her? I think it was Rich who told me, well, she doesn't like to hear the sound of the smashing bars, the doors. And you don't hear those in the visiting room.
it's really, I think it's just too difficult for her, and she can't. I believe, I don't. So I'm going on a bit of speculation, but I believe she literally can't take it. That's why she, you know, won't. She won't get involved in the advocacy of trying to get her sister
Because she doesn't believe it.
released. It's not that, I mean, she knows her sister's innocent. She knows an intruder come in there and killed those
You know what she knows, Rich. You just said you wanted to talk to her about it, but she won't talk about it. So how do you know what she knows?
little boys, but it's just
And
too
she
hard for her to
discusses
take.
it. she discusses it with her family and helps out and does things, but she's behind the scenes. She
Right.
doesn't want her face in the public because uh, of the guilt that and she can't, being that she does have the more fiery temper, she takes it more personally. That's why,
Hmm.
you know, when you're sweet tempered like Darlene and Danelle are, then you get to forgiveness faster. You get to tolerance faster. You afford others because you think of others more than you do your own.
How is she evaluating this whole family? You know what I'm saying? She ain't been to see Darlie one time. She didn't go to the funerals. She wasn't at the memorial. I mean, this family that you know so well that you can describe their personalities to a T. They needed all the support they could get when Devin and Damon died, and you couldn't show up for that. You couldn't show up for that. You couldn't put everything aside and show up for that. You act like you're close to a family member. There were family members from Altoona, Pennsylvania that dropped everything that came all the way to Texas to support their family.
Hurt. You think, well, they must really be hurting. They must really have a bad perception, and they don't feel anger if people don't agree with them.
Yeah, she I don't think she takes you know, skepticism very well, and that's okay. Under her circumstances, it's not a surprise to me.
Rich has never talked to her, but he's giving you a personality analysis on her. I don't think this, and I don't think that.
And I told Danelle, I told her, I said, I need you to tell Dana something for me. And I told her this last night. I said, years ago, I tried contacting her. She blocked me right away. I know she didn't know who I was. And I know she does now, but she didn't then. And tell her I meant no harm. I wasn't trying to, expose her or do anything nasty, but that I was just here to help. I said, please make sure she knows that. So, I feel horrible for all of them, but Dana really is, other than Darlie Lynn, Dana is the one that really took the hard hits on that. I mean, just
Actually, it was Devin and Damon that really took the hard hits on all that, Rich. And as soon as you realize that, you'll quit having sympathy where you don't need to have sympathy. Now, Dana should not feel too much survivor's guilt because let me show you. I'm going to show you because I like to use Google Maps a lot. I like to give a visual when I can. All right. Now we have those. They weren't there in '96. We've clarified that. I can learn from supporters. Now, this fence is 6 foot tall. Now they've got drapery in these windows here, right? Do you think that an intruder, because she said he was about 6 foot tall, do you think that an intruder that's just looking at the back of this house, do you think they could tell if this window was open or not? Do you think they could tell? I'm just asking. Now another thing while we're back here, these are the sliding glass doors, and the couch was actually about right here. Okay, so she could have came around this couch, and we were having a discussion with about. See, Barb Davis believes that Darlie slipped out these sliding glass doors, and that's how she got back there and ran the sock down the alley. And somebody was saying, "Well, wouldn't the motion detector lights come on?" I don't know if they would come on if you snuck along through here. I don't through the if you snuck along this way towards the mulch, and that's what this is where the mulch had been, and that's why Crom was talking about how that mulch wasn't disturbed. Because if you, I do believe that if you come out this door and you stay along this edge, if you come out this door and you stay along this edge, and you go to that gate, you wouldn't have set off the motion detector lights. But I don't think that someone can look over the. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't think Dana should have any guilt whatsoever. But guess who would know that the window was open? Darlie would. Because she would know that her sister was going out there to smoke. Perfect excuse.
It's just not a pleasant thought. Anyway, moving
A
forward.
lot of the Innocence Project, because the Routiers and their extended family are not the only ones that have suffered this.
Kathy's supposed to know these people so well. In my last video, she called Danelle Danielle. And in this video, she calls them Routier. There's a part in the court hearing where they were talking and someone stepped off the stand and they could hear a family member say, I wish they'd get our name right and quit pronouncing it Routier when it's Routier.
Injustice in America, and they stand on the side of law and justice and do everything they can to fight wrongful convictions.
They don't do anything they can to fight wrongful convictions. They do everything they can to fight Darlie's wrongful conviction. You don't see them speaking out in any other cases.
And yes, primarily it's death penalties, but even if we didn't have death penalty in the U.S., I don't think they'd close up shop. They would still work on cases, because even if there's not a death penalty, we're still human and we're bound to make mistakes. We're bound to do a lot. There's going to be Greg Davises in the world. There's going to be mess ups, and we need to make sure that our human error does not end up.
Davis didn't go looking for Darlie. Darlie's case came to him. Why would you portray him as such a bad person when he is not the one that convicted her? He is the one that told the story. He is the one that presented receipts for that story. Receipts. You'd have to believe that James Crumb was lying, all these other people were lying, the police were lying, everybody was lying. It's not Greg Davis's fault that Darlie chose to pick up that knife and kill those children. It's not.
Causing and inflicting pain on others using our justice system. Oftentimes, you don't have to be a politician for the justice system to be weaponized against you. And that's exactly what we see going on in politics, what they call justice system weaponization. Anybody that was accused was who the DA was going to go for, whether they, had a case.
Well, who's he supposed to go for? I mean, you use your common sense. She said anybody who's accused, that's who the DA is going to go for. If a case is presented to a DA through a grand jury, the DA is going to look at it and say, well, I have enough evidence here that I think I can prove that this person did that. There's a lot of times when cases have come through a grand jury, there'll be a no bill, and the DA doesn't have anything to do with it. So the grand jury felt like the Rowlett police felt there was enough evidence for probable cause to arrest her. Then they take that over to the grand jury, which is just a group of people that they change in and out, and they look at it and say, wow, there's enough here for us to charge her. And then they pass that on to the DA, and he says, they're right. There's enough here to charge her, and I think I can pursue this and get a conviction, because that's his fucking job.
Case or not, they were going to go for it because they'd been accused.
Now, if I could, now we have Jamie and we have Bonnie also on the panel. Now, Bonnie, you know Darlie as well as I know Darlie. Okay, you have gone to every visitation with me other than I think like 3 where I went on my own.
Now, Reach, that my wife would not allow that. My wife would not allow that. Mm-mm. Nope. That would be the same as you going to visit somebody outside, another female. My wife simply would not allow that.
Can you share with the audience your opinion of Darlie and what you think her personality is all about? Um, and I want Jamie to do the same thing. Now, Jamie hasn't visited Darlie, but they do write, and I want to get Jamie's thoughts on Darlie. You know, regardless of what they are, we want to hear them today since we're on her personality at the moment.
Jamie claims to be a psychic. She talks about, I see this and I see that and I see this. But can you see who killed those kids?
Bonnie, can you share with us your feelings of Darlie? What do you think of her as a
Hello, Miss Cleo. I see a very large phone bill in your immediate future.
person or personality? I mean, you've sat 2 foot in front of her just like I have. Give us the spiel. Tell us about it.
Yeah, she is just very genuine. Like that's what comes to my mind the most is that she's
Inclusive is the word I think they used. How fucking genuine is that, man?
just a very real person, very caring. If she was, I mean, she's as protective of people as she can be from behind a window. But
So you're going to give us your opinion on her personality based on sitting to visit her behind a window. You don't see her in any other settings besides the jail. She knows that you're going to run and tell people that I got to see Darlie. She knows that. She knows that she's crime famous. You're giving us an opinion of somebody that you watch sitting down in a jail.
um, fierce and loving and kind and sweet and um, but also I would say very, very protective of her loved ones.
Have you seen? I mean, how would you know this?
Well, yeah, they're she is rather protective, but there's a lot of people like in her family and friends and whatnot. They're very protective of her as well, and I'm glad she has that, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of ugly people out there, and I think Darlie Lynn always gives everybody the benefit of the doubt, whether she agrees with them or disagrees with them. Now, I would like to hear Jamie's thoughts and views because they have written back and forth. Jamie, what is your opinion on Darlie from what you know of her?
Well, from the letters and everything, Rich, she's asked about you and Bonnie and your health. She's been very concerned. One of the things I got from her is if she was out, she would do the world for anybody who she cared about. She
Oh
would do
yeah.
the world for them. That's just my opinion. That's what I got from her. Um, she seems so caring and concerned about everything.
Well, you
Hey, Rich said he could just about tell when Darlie's going to send a letter. So why would Darlie write in a letter, well, how's Rich? How's his health? Because she would already know. So that's just trying to make it seem like she's really concerned because she could just simply write to Rich and say, hey, how's your health?
you know what she told me one time. We got real busy with work there for a while, and we were going like 70-hour weeks, and I just was so exhausted, and I try to write her on a very professional standpoint because I'm a writer myself. And so
Oh, you're a writer yourself? So, okay. All right. Well, I actually took creative writing. Uh, you are a writer yourself, Rich. All right, I'm going to use that.
so I like to choose my words accordingly. And so
Like poor piss and various different many things that I mean, I could trip you up easily.
I was so exhausted. I just was kind of putting off right there for a minute because work had been so stressful and hard. And she had sent me a letter. Said, Rich, this is unlike you. I haven't heard from you or Bonnie for a little while now. She goes, if I don't hear from you soon, I'm going to get a scout team together and find you. Because she was worried. She thought I was sick or something had happened. Again, that goes to show her concern level. And when I got the letter, I just made the time to write her. And I told her, I said, the letter's going to be short because I'm busy, but we're fine. And I'm sorry if I worried you because it's the last thing that I want to do to her is give her stress in there. But yeah, that is definitely the kind of person she is. Very, very charismatic. And I like what Bonnie said, very genuine. Thing I noticed the most when I visited her in prison was the other ladies that are on death row with her. Now, all the ladies that are on death row with Darlie Lynn, I have met all of them.
I don't know how Texas death row is, but I know that in other prisons, you might see other prisoners getting visits. You might see them sitting down, but you're not allowed to talk to the other inmates. You're not allowed to. You're not on their visiting list. You're not allowed to speak to them. You might see them, but that's a rule in just about every jail is you're not allowed to talk to the other inmates. You're just not allowed to. You have to be on someone's visiting list to visit them. So if you're talking to them in the visiting room, you're now visiting.
some are more interesting than others. Some, when you look at them, you're like, I can't believe they did what they did, but it just almost don't seem probable. But um,
You can't look at somebody and tell. Look at Carla Faye Tucker. She was really cute, really, really smart, really wise, and she took a pickaxe to somebody, to somebody's, I believe.
the biggest thing that I noticed, and I'm curious to see if Bonnie's seen this, I'm sure she has, is Darlie's nice to them. She talks very nice with them, no problems, but their mentalities are totally different from Darlie.
What she's supposed to do? Be mean to them? She's got to live in death row with them. They might get out to do a work detail or get out for some kind of church or something, and she might get her ass kicked. She did not get along with Linda Carty. Did not.
These women are oftentimes, other than Melissa. Melissa was kind of similar to Darlie, but Melissa's also been found innocent. I think she's getting released on time served. By the way, the Innocence Project got that through, to my understanding. If I hear otherwise, I will say at a later date.
I think they're going to chart. I think what they're going to do is be able to reduce her sentence from capital murder to child endangerment and give her, or child abuse, and give her time served because she's been there for so long. That's about the only thing they can do, because she did admit to spanking Mariah in her confession, and she had some bruising because of that. But the other children in Melissa Lucio's case, they know that Mariah fell down the stairs. She had a club foot, and her foot was inward. And she would stumble and fall all the time. And she fell down a flight of stairs outside, and she damaged herself pretty badly. And Melissa and family felt like it would be okay to just have her lay down, and because if you call children's services, or if you go to the hospital with injuries like that, a children's services call would be made. It would be made. So I think they felt like that she just could lay down because she was sore, and that she was having internal bleeding from falling down those stairs, and that's what killed her.
But
It was based on the second autopsy that was done that showed that it wasn't shaken baby syndrome, and that it was injuries more than likely suffered in a fall.
Yeah.
exactly what the mom said.
She was never accused of shaken baby syndrome. Never. She was accused of child abuse.
Yeah. And well, I met Melissa, and she's very, very quiet woman. She wasn't. She's not one that and she talks real soft like this,
You
real
can see that in interviews, Rich. You're not supposed to be talking to those other inmates.
low and shy, and a woman of 9 children. Um,
A woman of 12 children, Rich. She's got 12 kids.
you would think wouldn't have that type of mentality, but she did. Um, you know, one of the more interesting ones in there, Erica Shepard was very interesting, and um, Brittany Holberg. Um, she's been in there almost as long as Darlie has, um, and she was a methamphetamine addict and a prostitute, and she had went to an 80-year-old man's
Melissa was also a prostitute.
house and basically beat and bludgeoned the man to death with forks and knives and shoved a lamppost down the guy's throat and everything else. And I mean, I met this woman. She was right in front of me. And
See, he keeps saying, I met this woman. She was right in front of me because he's not going to tell you about a conversation they had. He's telling you who he saw walk through there.
just like, but when I met her, I mean, she's very nice, waved at me. Hi, Rich, you know, it's just hard to believe it what, some of those people have done. But the differences that I'm talking about between Darlie and these other women that are in there, they're more boisterous. They're more, what's the word? Rabid, if you will, about the way they act, their body language, their voices, their
All you know is their body language, dude.
audible sounds that they make with their voices. It's hard to explain.
Loudmouth.
Yeah, that's a way of putting it. But Darlie is much more laid back, and she's just like an ordinary person that might meet to have a cup of coffee with. She's that kind of a person. She doesn't have that boisterousness or the criminal mentality that a lot of the other women have on death row.
Do you know how many grievances that Darlie files with that prison? She files grievances after grievances about the toilet paper, about the commissary, about the commissary ran out of cashews. She filed a grievance. She's left and right filing grievances, dude.
Now, Bonnie, how would you describe that, Bonnie? Have you noticed that over the last couple years? Oh, I don't know, Bonnie had a.
I'm here. I didn't hear the whole question. I'm sorry.
When you we're talking about Darlie's mentality. Now, you had already spoke on that, but did you notice a difference between the other women that are on death row? You met them with me, being different from Darlie, and if you have seen that, in what way?
I can't say as though I pay them much mind, really. Beyond just a little gentle wave or something, and hello.
That's all they're allowed to do is maybe wave. You'll see them behind the glass going to sit down. When they come in, they're going to sit down to talk to whoever's coming to visit them. But that's all you can do. Rich is giving you a whole personality on these people, and he's never spoke to them. You can't.
Hello. I think just in general, everybody's happy to have a visitation, and so we don't maybe necessarily see a full personality that maybe they.
Well, I actually kind of disagree with you on that. I thought, I mean, you were there when we met Erica Shepard and Brittany Hallberg, and you were there when we met Melissa. And I mean, you seen the different women that were in there. Even I can't think of the other two ladies.
Seeing somebody walk to sit down to their visit is a lot different than I met.
Names offhand, but uh, I could clearly see a huge difference in how Darlie acted compared to the way they acted. Of course, I'm very observant to stuff like that. I thought the differences were humongous, actually.
Without
I
even
think maybe
talking
I
to
just
him.
wrote that off the personality differences, but I'm sure that there is also the hopefulness of release versus knowing that there's no hope for the other ones. But
Okay, I see your
yeah,
point.
two especially, and I get them mixed up. I wouldn't personally even want to visit or anything, but I think I just wrote that off to more of a personality difference, and so I just didn't even pay them much mind.
Well, Erica Shepard was the one that I noticed was the most belligerent and boisterous. I mean, it was so loud in there because of her and her visitor. And I mean, they're M and F and this and M and F and that and screaming and yelling. And I could barely hear Darlie. And, you know, Darlie's got one of those voices that are unique anyway. And so, you know, my hearing.
I know I couldn't have killed my children. I believe I didn't sleep through that.
Not that good. That's what over 30 years of amplifiers and loud equipment will do to you. So my hearing isn't that great. And so I'm trying to listen to her through that little screen that's like 4x4. And, you know, I really had a hard time doing that. So.
Yeah, and a lot of people that have that personality that get loud and boisterous, they want attention on them. That's why they do it.
Well, I mean,
Oh, come on. They're glad to see their visitor.
I'm very sympathetic to all the women in there. I think it's
Oh yeah,
horrible that they're in there.
yeah,
But I mean, you know, they put themselves where they need to be. I mean, they did awful things, and I don't think that any of those women in there think otherwise. I think most of them know that they're there because of what they've done.
right.
And I just think they come to accept that. And I think Bonnie's right to a degree. You know, they're so tickled pink to get a visitor of any, you know, size, shape, and sort and color or whatever you want to call it, that they're just so thrilled with that it's you know, I mean, Darlie Lynn gets quite an assortment. I mean, she has a limited amount of people that can visit her, but there's so many people. Like she alternates her visitors list. And she alters it from time to time so different people could come and visit. So she can actually get to see everybody that that wants to visit her and she wants to visit with them. And I'm glad she does that. Now Claire Casey's asking about Taylor Parker. You know, I was just talking with Bonnie about Taylor Parker this morning. No, I have not met Taylor Parker. I asked Darlie Lynn about Taylor Parker. She told me that Taylor's not there yet. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, she was convicted quite a long while, a few years ago. She goes, Rich, it can take a long time to get a death row inmate down here once they're sentenced to death row.
Harley got there real fucking quick.
She said she'll get here eventually, but it can take a long time. Because I wanted to get Darlie's opinion of her because I've looked at the case. Taylor Parker is clearly guilty of the case. And if anybody who don't know the case, to put it in a nutshell, she was a young gal, decently attractive, I would have to say, but she wanted to have a baby so bad that her friend that was 32 weeks pregnant, she had stabbed over 100 times and took the baby out of the womb, and actually had the umbilical cord from taking the baby out of the womb hanging out of her pants. Okay, this is where her mind's at, this woman. Okay, the lawyer was stopped by police and was taken to the hospital because they had thought that she had had the baby and needed medical attention. And anyway, through proper investigation,
It's supposed to be about the wrongdoings and constitutional violations of Darlie's case.
and whatnot, they had
They
found
talk about that for about 3 minutes and then they go on to something else.
out what she had done. She was convicted of murder in the first degree and capital murder in the first degree because that baby died. And so, and she got sentenced to death row and she's going to Gatesville. I just don't, she might be there now. Darlie hadn't said anything to me about it in letters. I could ask her again, but I'm curious to see what she thinks of her. Darlie said when they do get a new inmate, all the other inmates are usually, you know, very good with a new inmate that comes in there. If a new inmate,
Let's see. Who they're talking about right here, Taylor Parker. That's Melissa Lucio, who will soon to be released if the Texas Court of the Criminal Appeals lets her loose. This is Linda Carty, which she does not get along with Darlie. We've heard that many times. Brittany Holberg, Darlie Routier, and Erica Shepard.
comes in there, obviously they're scared to death. They don't know what to expect. They're frantic, you know, which can be expected. But she said they always try, and she meant all the inmates, including herself, always try to make them feel welcome and they're kind to them and so on and so forth, which is almost a little bit surprising for me to hear. So that is correct, Claire. Yeah, she did have a hysterectomy, so she was unable to have children. I think she had female organ problem. She had to get a hysterectomy. She badly wanted to have a baby, and so she did that crazy act. Very, very sad. And it resulted in the murder of 2 people, and her is going to be the third because she got sentenced to death row. I'll make sure that you folks know about it, because there's only several women on death row. You know, it's not like population where there's hundreds of people. You know, there's only, if I recollect, I think there's only 7 or 8 women on death row. So I mean, they all know one another very, very well. But anyway, Bonnie, if we could continue. I don't want to get too far off here, but if we could do these next 2 paragraphs, and then we'll probably stop for today, and we'll get back on this because, like I said, we're going to reopen all the crime scene photos and documents again and go through them one by one and do a deep dive again. Bonnie, if you could continue, that would be great.
Citing the Michael Morton Act, which the Texas legislature unanimously passed in 2013, defendants must be given access to all evidence in the state's possession that may aid their defense. There remains evidence that Assistant DA Davis blocked from being presented at Ms. Routier's trial, and the Dallas County DA's office continues to hinder to this day. That includes crime scene photographs, fingerprint analysis, and DNA. While the Michael Morton Act was passed too late to support Ms. Routier's actual trial, the Texas legislature passed this act because of cases like Ms. Routier's and many others where evidence was withheld that would have aided the defense, previous to the enactment in 2013. Ms. Routier's case is worthy of a revisit for a host of reasons and possesses a challenge to the state's commitment to this fundamental principle.
I'd like to know what it is that Greg Davis wouldn't allow in. If there's things that he didn't allow in, I agree 100% that we should see it all. I base my opinion on the evidence that I've seen. And if we haven't seen it all, there might be a different opinion.
Go ahead and continue, please.
Although Ms. Routier claimed an intruder had attacked her and her children, and she saw him exit their home wearing a baseball cap, the Rowlett Police Department consultant, Mr. James Cron, decided within 20 minutes of his arrival that Ms. Routier was their suspect.
He did not say that Ms. Routier was her suspect. No wonder the person that wrote this out doesn't want to be named. Wrong. He never said that. What he said was, we don't have an intruder here.
Before knowing, police had found a sock containing the boy's blood that was located outside, 75 yards away, or
Not this with that sock. Okay? when Tom Bevel was asked on the stand by Mosty, well, whose blood would you expect to be on that sock? And he said he would expect Devin's to be there, Damon's to be there, and Darlie's to be there. Instead, Darlie's cells are on the inside toe of that sock. Why is Darlie's blood not on there? Darlie tells us herself that he attacked the boys first, and then he attacked her. What did he do? Take the sock off?
Seeing Ms. Routier's defensive wounds and severe bruising. He claimed to not have found any pry marks that would have been made by an intruder. It was later proven that the window with the cut screen had mistakenly been left unlocked by a visiting family member earlier in the day while smoking a cigarette by the open window.
All right,
12
hold on.
days later.
Hold on. Yeah, that's where we're going to hold up on. But that last paragraph, a lot of information there. Very important information. Now we're going to go into the sock here for a moment. And first of all, let's go with James Cron. Okay, first of all, the man is deceased. He died some time ago. But I don't have a lot of respect for the man. I never did.
Of course you wouldn't have any respect for the man. He convicted your buddy.
For not only this case, but other cases as well. I just don't think he was, what's the word I want to use? So wonderful with his crime scenes investigation. I mean, give me a
What other cases are you talking about, Rich?
break. He was a fingerprint analyst or a fingerprint detective. I mean, what's he doing on a murder scene?
Oh, God. Are you fucking kidding me? James Cron was a crime scene analysis. He was a crime scene investigator. He was the commander of crime scene investigations in Dallas. Part of investigating the crime scene is fingerprints. You guys are so stuck on this fingerprint shit. He didn't do fingerprints there, okay?
It's just irritating to me. And the author of this letter is exactly right. He said within 20 minutes he had felt as though somebody in the house had did this act.
She said that they were right? And then you contradict something that the writer wrote. The writer wrote that Darlie Routier did it. He said within 20 minutes. He said this person is absolutely right, and then named something that they were wrong about. Do you think before you talk sometimes, Rich?
Well, that's ridiculous. How are you going to
Okay, what's the intruder's name?
make a statement like that before any DNA is tested, before
He stood in the scene, and he looked at it, and he said, this don't seem right to me. How are you going to make some of the statements that you make, Rich, and you've never been at the scene? You've never been at the scene when it happened. He got to walk through it hours after it happened. It didn't seem right to him. And to this day, you can't name the intruder. To this day.
anything is even looked at on a crucial level, even fingerprint evidence or witness testimonies of any kind or statements. This is 20 minutes from being on the crime.
Accident testimony says it was about 30, 35 minutes. He felt like there was no intruder in the case. He didn't blame anybody. Darren was the first suspect.
Scene. He's going to make a statement to this magnitude that he had felt as though somebody in the house had done it.
He just said that he didn't feel like there was an intruder.
One of the things that he said, well, none of the mulch was disturbed below the window where the cut screen was.
Say it was below the window where the cut screen was. He never said that. He just said the mulch near the window wasn't disturbed.
There's no mulch below that cut screen.
We know that, Rich. I need you to put in there where he said the mulch below the window. He didn't say that.
So either he needed another pair of glasses or he's an idiot. One of the two.
Look how disrespectful you want to be to people.
Because it's exposed concrete. They call it exposed aggregate concrete. I'm a concrete man, so I know what kind of concrete it is, and it's not mulch. the
We know that, and so does he. It's in his testimony, Rich. He never said that it was right under the window. He went that way. The reason he went that way is because of the motion detector lights. Because if you slip through the mulch and go through the mulch, then that light might not come on.
Intruder very easily could have escaped out of that backyard without disturbing any mulch. Easily. And we're going to go into that probably on the next episode. So, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Now, I can get into the sock a little bit, but I can't. There's new stuff with the sock now that has not been released to the public. I cannot
There's nothing new about that sock. Come on, man, with that bullshit.
share it, and I will not share it at this
Then why would you just say there was something new?
time until I'm given permission to do so. When Darlie Lynn
You've been saying that since day one.
tells me, hey, put it out there, I promise you I will waste no time firing up a podcast to get it out there. Because I want to see what the haters got to say about it.
We're not haters, dude. We can call you dumbasses. If you're going to keep calling us haters, we'll keep calling you dummies. We'll see what the dummies have to say about that.
Especially, of course, they probably won't say anything meaningful. But
yeah, we never say anything meaningful, Rich. By the way, where's that episode where you had Pam on your podcast? What happened to that?
The thing with the sock, I think, tells a big story about the timeline. Okay, the test has been done. It takes 26 seconds. Now, Darren actually did the test. 26 seconds to go one way from the murder scene to where the sock was found. Now, Jamie here has been at the house. I've been at the house. So, we both know where the sock was at. We know where the murder scene took place in the house. So at minimum, okay, you're looking at just shy of 1 minute. And that is Darren doing the test, being at the age that he was at the time, at almost 30 years old, and he was in pretty pristine health, could only do it in 26 seconds in one way, and that's running full blast. Likely, Darlie Lynn, if you want to say that she did it, could not have done that in 26 seconds. It's not going to happen. But let's give it for the benefit of the doubt that it was Darlie. Let's look at this carefully. And
Especially barefoot, Rich. You couldn't run that barefoot that quick.
Well, wait a second. Watch what I'm getting at. You're right. So let's just say hypothetically she did it. Let's say she's the one that placed the sock in the alley and she could do it in 1 minute. 1 minute going from the crime scene in the Roman room to where the sock was back to the crime scene. So let's say 1 minute. That doesn't fit the time frame. It doesn't fit the time frame of the start of the 911 call because, and how we know this is because of Damon. Medical experts' testimony in the trial stated the absolute longest Damon could have survived with wounds to his severity was 8 to 9 minutes.
Wrong. I just showed it. You're wrong.
Darlie's 911 call in total was 5 minutes and 44 seconds. Okay.
You can't tell. And Rich says, well, this is absolute and exact and blah, blah, blah. It's absolute. Oh, with no denying and absolutely 100%. She said you can't tell, dude. Period.
Now, let's get it let's get it cut it to the leg long. Let's say it's 9 minutes. You minus almost 6 minutes. It's giving us 3 minutes.
Same medical examiner said that those wounds could be self-inflicted too, Rich. You don't tell them all that.
You got 3 minutes to stab the boys. You have 3 minutes to make all them bloody footprints of blood all over the place.
That was supposed to have been done during the 911 call, not after it.
Place was a bloodbath. You know, make the glass table come down, knock over
She could have flipped the glass table down before she did anything.
flower vases, knock off lampshades, plant the murder weapon,
Plant the murder weapon. All she did was set it on the counter.
cut the screen.
No, she could have cut the screen earlier in that day, Rich.
Okay, and scream and wake up Darren.
You conveniently wake up Darren after the intruder leaves. She feels somebody on her, and she's fighting. She's fighting quietly, right? She's not screaming at him, right? Is that what you want us to believe? She told Waddell she had a fight with him over by the bar area, but she didn't scream? She didn't scream until she saw that she was cut. Me, 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 me.
And so-called stage the crime scene
So-called ass.
in 3 minutes. And that's a best case scenario.
No, because she could have done a lot of things before. A lot of things before. That screen could have been cut earlier that day. That sock could have been at the ready earlier that day.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. We'll go through some more of his later. Tell me what you think in the comments below.